I found out my husband was cheating on me. On Easter morning. It sounds almost unreal when I say it now, like something that happens in movies, not real life. Not to someone like me, not in a house filled with pastel decorations, chocolate eggs, and the smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. That morning started perfectly. I woke up early, just before sunrise, the way I always do on Easter. The house was quiet, peaceful. I remember standing in the kitchen, wrapping little chocolate eggs in foil, placing them into baskets I had carefully prepared the night before. Everything felt right. My husband, Daniel, was still asleep upstairs, or at least I thought he was. We had been married for 9 years, 9 stable, predictable, safe years, the kind of marriage people envy. No loud fights, no drama, just routine, comfort, and what I believed was trust. I even smiled to myself as I poured coffee, thinking about how lucky I was. That's the part that hurts the most now, because just an hour later, everything I believed about my life shattered. It started with something so small, so stupid, honestly. Daniel's phone. He had left it on the kitchen counter. That alone wasn't unusual. He was careless with it sometimes. But what was unusual was that it kept lighting up. Again. And again. And again. At first, I ignored it. I told myself it was probably work, or one of his friends, or maybe a group chat blowing up with Easter messages. But then it buzzed again. And this time, I glanced at the screen. And I wish I hadn't, because what I saw didn't make sense. There was no name, just a number, and a message that said, "Happy Easter, love. I wish I woke up next to you today." I froze. I actually remember gripping the edge of the counter, like my body needed something to hold on to just to stay standing. I don't know how I managed to act normal in that moment, but somehow I did. I handed Daniel his phone like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just seen messages that shattered 9 years of my life. He kissed my cheek. Casual, warm, familiar. "Smells amazing in here," he said, glancing at the oven. I nodded. I even forced a small smile. And that scared me, because part of me was already slipping into denial. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe, "Hey," he said suddenly, snapping me out of my thoughts. "My sister's coming earlier than planned. Around noon." I blinked. "Today?" "Yeah, I told you, remember?" He didn't, but I nodded anyway. Everything felt distant, like I was underwater, hearing things through pressure and noise. I turned back to the counter, pretending to focus on arranging the baskets. My hands moved automatically, but my mind was racing. Years. That wasn't just flirting. That wasn't just a mistake. That was a double life. And the worst part, he looked completely normal. No guilt, no hesitation, no sign that anything was wrong. How do you lie like that? For years. I needed more information. I couldn't confront him yet, not without understanding what I was dealing with. So I waited. We ate breakfast together. We talked about small things, the weather, his sister, what time we'd hide the eggs. Every word out of his mouth felt fake. Or maybe it always had been, and I was only just realizing it. At one point, he got up to take a shower. The second I heard the water running, my body moved on its own. I went straight for his phone. This time, I didn't hesitate. I opened the messages again, my fingers more steady now, focused. If this was real, I needed to see all of it. The contact still had no name, just a number. But the messages told a story. A long one. I started scrolling. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. And then I saw it. A message from almost 4 years ago. "Are you sure you won't leave her?" My stomach dropped. His reply came seconds later. "No, I can't. Not now. Not now." Those 2 words echoed in my head like a warning. Not I won't, not I don't want to. Just not now. Which meant he had thought about it. More than once. I kept scrolling, my heart pounding harder with every message. There were hotel bookings, photos of dinners I thought were work meetings, excuses I remembered defending him for. And then something else. Photos. I hesitated. Every instinct told me not to open them, but I already knew too much to stop now, so I tapped one, and my entire world tilted, because the woman in the picture was someone I recognized. Not just recognized. Someone I knew. Someone who had been inside my home. Someone who had sat at my table and smiled at me. I felt my knees go weak. I grabbed the counter again just to stay upright. "No," I whispered under my breath. It didn't make sense. It couldn't be her. Out of all people, it couldn't be her. But the more photos I opened, the clearer it became. There was no mistake, no confusion, no denying it. It was her. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. The way she looked at him sometimes. The small, subtle moments I had brushed off. The times she showed up unexpectedly. The way Daniel always seemed just a little too attentive around her. I had seen it. I just never believed it. Until now. A loud noise upstairs made me jump. The shower turned off. Panic surged through me again. I quickly locked the phone and placed it exactly where it had been. My heart was racing so fast it felt painful. I stepped back just as Daniel walked into the kitchen, drying his hair with a towel. "Everything okay?" he asked, studying my face. For a split second, I thought about telling him, screaming, demanding answers, asking how he could do this to me. But then I remembered the message. Does she suspect anything yet? And something inside me shifted. Because if he thought I didn't know, then maybe I could use that. I looked at him, really looked at him this time, at the man I thought I knew. And I smiled. "Yeah," I said softly, "everything's perfect." But inside, I was already planning something he would never see coming, because if he had been lying to me for years, then maybe it was time. He learned what it feels like to be the one in the dark. And what I decided to do next was something I never imagined myself capable of. I spent the next hour pretending to be the same woman I had been yesterday. Smiling, hosting, playing the perfect wife. But inside, something had changed. Something cold. Something sharp. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was awake. By noon, the house was full. Daniel's sister arrived first, loud and cheerful, carrying a basket of desserts. Then a couple of friends. Laughter filled the living room. The smell of food, the clinking of glasses. Everything looked like a perfect Easter gathering. And then, she walked in. Like nothing had ever happened. Like she hadn't been sleeping with my husband for years. Like she hadn't sent him a message just hours ago saying she wished she woke up next to him. She smiled at me. And I swear, it was the same smile from the photos. Warm, sweet, familiar, fake. "Happy Easter," she said, stepping forward to hug me. For a second, my body froze, but then I hugged her back, tight, closer than necessary. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She had no idea I knew. None. Which meant Daniel hadn't told her. Which meant they were both playing their own version of the same lie. Interesting, I pulled back and looked at her, forcing a smile. "Happy Easter," I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. We moved into the living room, everyone chatting, laughing. From the outside, everything looked normal, but I started watching. Really watching. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. The small glances, the way his eyes followed her when she moved, the way she avoided looking at him too directly, like she was trying not to get caught. Or maybe, like this wasn't the first time they had done this. My chest tightened. How many holidays? How many dinners? How many times had I been in the same room as both of them? Completely blind? I walked into the kitchen, needing air. A moment. Anything. But before I could gather myself, I heard footsteps behind me. Her. "Hey," she said softly. I turned around. She leaned against the counter like she belonged there, like this was her space too. "You okay?" she asked. I studied her face, looking for guilt, for fear, for anything that would confirm she was human. But she just looked calm, concerned even. And that's when it hit me. She didn't think she was doing anything wrong. Or worse. She thought she was justified. "I'm fine," I said. There was a pause. A long one. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You're lucky, you know." I blinked. "What?" She smiled slightly, glancing toward the living room where Daniel's voice echoed. "Daniel," she said, "he's rare. Rare." I felt something dark rise in my chest. I stepped a little closer to her, close enough that she had no choice but to look directly at me. "Yeah," I said quietly. "He is." For a moment, neither of us spoke, and I swear, something passed between us. Something unspoken. Something dangerous. Did she know that I knew? Or was I imagining it? Before I could figure it out, someone called her name from the other room. She pushed off the counter. "Anyway," she said lightly, "Happy Easter." And then she walked away. Just like that. Like she hadn't just stood in my kitchen, talking about my husband like he belonged to her. I stayed there for a second, my hands gripping the edge of the counter. My heart was no longer just broken, it was burning. Because now it wasn't just about him, it was about her too. The betrayal wasn't distant anymore. It was standing in my house, smiling at my guests, touching things that belonged to me, and suddenly, my plan wasn't just about finding the truth anymore. It was about something else, something deeper, something neither of them were prepared for. Because they thought I was the one being lied to. They thought I was the one in the dark. But what they didn't know was that I had already started putting the pieces together, and the next move I made was going to change everything. Not just for me, but for all three of us. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Because the truth is, once I saw everything clearly, I realized something even worse than the betrayal. They were comfortable. Too comfortable. This wasn't new for them. This wasn't risky or exciting anymore. This was routine. And that meant one thing. They thought they were safe. That I would never find out. That I would never question anything. That I would just keep being me. And for the first time in years, I decided I wouldn't. I walked back into the living room, my face calm, my steps steady. Daniel was pouring drinks, laughing at something his sister said. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a secret burning between her and my husband. I looked at them both. And I made my decision. If they could lie to me for years, then they could handle one day of truth. Just not all at once. Not yet. I needed them to feel it. Slowly. Piece by piece. I picked up my phone and walked toward Daniel. "Hey," I said softly, touching his arm. He turned to me, smiling instantly. "Yeah? I need your help with something upstairs." He didn't hesitate. "Sure." Of course he didn't. He followed me without question, without suspicion, without a clue. The second we stepped into the bedroom, I closed the door behind us. The air changed instantly. He noticed it. I saw it in his face. "Everything okay?" he asked. That question again. It almost made me laugh. I turned to face him, and for a moment, I just looked at him. 9 years. 9 years of memories, of trust, of love, and lies I hadn't even begun to uncover. "Who is she?" I asked quietly. His expression didn't change right away, and that told me everything. Because if he were innocent, he would have been confused. Instead, he froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. And once you see that kind of reaction, you can't unsee it. "I don't know what you mean," he said. Of course that's what he said. I nodded slowly, like I expected it. Then I reached into my pocket and placed his phone on the bed between us. Screen already open, messages visible, unavoidable. His eyes dropped to it. And in that moment, the mask fell. Not completely, but enough. Enough for me to see the truth in his face, the panic, the calculation, the realization that this was it. He had been caught. "How long?" I asked. My voice was still calm. That was the part that unsettled him the most. "Listen," he started. "How long, Daniel?" This time, sharper. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once like he needed space to think. And then he said it. "It's not what you think." I actually smiled. A small, broken smile. "Then tell me what it is," I said. Silence. Heavy. Thick. And then 3 years. 3 years. I felt it hit me, but not the way I expected. Not explosive, not loud, just deep. Like something sinking inside me with no bottom. 3 years, I repeated. He nodded, barely looking at me now. "I was going to end it," he added quickly. I didn't know how. I let out a quiet breath. There it was. The classic line. The one people say when they've run out of lies. But I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. I took a step closer. "And who is she?" I asked. This time, he hesitated longer. And that hesitation, that was worse than the answer, because it meant he knew exactly how bad this was. He started. But before he could finish, there was a knock on the door. Soft. Careful. And then, her voice. "Daniel, are you in there?" My entire body went still. I turned slowly toward the door, then back to him. And in that moment, everything changed. Because now, this wasn't just between me and him anymore. She was standing right outside, close enough to hear, close enough to be part of it. And suddenly, I realized something. I didn't need to imagine their lies anymore. I could watch them unfold in real time. I walked toward the door, my hand resting on the handle. Daniel's voice behind me, tense, almost panicked. "Wait, don't..." But it was too late, because I had already made up my mind. If they had built this secret together, then they could face the truth together too. I opened the door, and the look on her face when she saw mine told me everything I needed to know. The moment the door opened, time seemed to stop. She was standing there, just inches away, close enough for me to see the exact second her expression changed, from calm to confused. to something else, something closer to fear, because she saw my face, and she understood. Not everything. Not yet. But enough. "Is everything okay?" she asked carefully, her voice quieter now. I stepped aside. "Why don't you come in?" I said. Behind me, I felt Daniel go completely still. She hesitated, just for a second. Then she walked in, slowly, cautiously, like she was stepping into something she couldn't control anymore. Good. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and suddenly, it was just the three of us. No laughter from the living room, no distractions, just truth, waiting to surface. I leaned back against the dresser, crossing my arms. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them looked at each other. That was the first thing I noticed. Interesting. "So," I said quietly, "how long have you two been lying to me?" She looked at him. He looked at the floor. Silence. Again. And that's when I realized something even more disturbing. They didn't have a shared story. They hadn't planned for this, not together, which meant they hadn't trusted each other either. 3 years, Daniel muttered. Her head snapped toward him. 3? She repeated. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. It was sharp, surprised. "No," she said quickly, looking at me now. "That's not true." I felt my heart beat slow, not faster, slower, colder. "Then tell me the truth," I said. She swallowed, and for the first time since I had known her, she looked unsure. 5, she said. The word landed heavier than anything else that day. 5 years. 5 years of lies. 5 years of secrets. 5 years of sharing my life. With someone I didn't even know was part of it. I turned my head slowly toward Daniel. He didn't deny it. He didn't correct her. He just stood there, silent. Which was answer enough. But it still didn't make sense, because something wasn't adding up. If they had been together for 5 years, why didn't they even agree on that? Why did they look at each other like strangers right now? And then she said something that changed everything. "He told me you knew." I blinked. "What?" Her eyes filled with something raw now. Not guilt. Not exactly. Something closer to anger. "He said you were okay with it," she continued, her voice shaking slightly. "That you didn't care. That your marriage was basically over." The room tilted. I slowly turned back to Daniel, and for the first time that day, he looked truly afraid. "That's not," he started, but I didn't let him finish. "Did you tell her that?" I asked. My voice was no longer calm. It was quiet in a different way. The kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. He opened his mouth, closed it. And that was enough. Everything clicked. All of it. The messages, the secrecy, the confidence. The way she stood in my kitchen like she belonged there. She hadn't been hiding from me because she didn't think she had to. And him? He wasn't just living a double life. He was living 2 completely different lies. One for me, one for her. And neither of us knew the truth. Until now. A small, broken laugh escaped my chest. I couldn't stop it. It just came out. "Wow," I whispered. 9 years of marriage, 5 years of betrayal. And somehow, he had managed to deceive both of us at the same time. I looked at her, really looked at her this time, and for the first time, I didn't see her as the woman who stole my husband. I saw her as someone who had also been lied to, used, just like me. and that didn't erase what she did. But it changed something. Just enough. I straightened up, taking a slow breath. Then I walked past them, toward the door. "Wait," Daniel said quickly. "Where are you going?" I paused, my hand on the handle, and for a moment, I thought about everything I had lost, everything I thought I had, everything that was never real to begin with. Then I opened the door. "I'm choosing myself," I said, and I walked out, leaving them both behind, leaving the lies, leaving the life I thought I knew. That Easter was the day my marriage ended, but it was also the day I finally saw the truth, not just about him, but about everything I had been ignoring for years. And sometimes I still think about it, about the signs I missed, the moments I trusted too easily, the version of him I believed in. And I wonder, if you were in my place, would you have seen it sooner? Or would you have trusted him, just like I did? My first thought wasn't, he's cheating? No. My first thought was, this has to be a mistake. Maybe wrong number. Maybe someone texting the wrong person. Maybe the phone buzzed again. Another message. "I miss you already. Last night wasn't enough." My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to disappear. Like somehow, if I didn't touch it, it wouldn't be real. But it stayed. Bright. Clear. Impossible to misinterpret. And then I heard footsteps. Daniel. Coming down the stairs. Panic hit me instantly. I don't even know why. But I grabbed the phone before he could walk into the kitchen. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I told myself I wasn't the kind of person who goes through someone else's phone. I told myself this wasn't who I was. But in that moment, I needed to know. I had to know. So I opened the messages. And what I found wasn't just a one-time mistake. It wasn't even recent. It was years of messages, photos, plans, conversations that went deeper than anything he had shared with me in a long time, inside jokes I didn't recognize, memories I was never part of, an entire relationship hidden right beneath my nose. My heart started pounding so loud, I thought he would hear it from the hallway. And then I saw something that made everything even worse. A message from just 3 days ago. Does she suspect anything yet? I felt something inside me break. Not crack. Break. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just cheating. This was a life he had been living, behind my back, for years. And I had no idea. I quickly locked the phone just as Daniel walked into the kitchen. He smiled at me. That same warm, familiar smile I had trusted for nearly a decade. "Happy Easter," he said softly, and I swear, I almost smiled back. Almost. But instead, I just stood there, staring at him, with his phone still in my hand, wondering who the man in front of me really was, and how long he had been lying to my face. Because what I didn't know yet was that this was only the beginning, and the truth I was about to uncover was far worse than a secret relationship. It was something I never could have imagined. Something that would make me question not just my marriage, but every single year we had spent together.